got some breaking news. There is a fifth Matrix movie in the works from Drew Goddard, not from the Wachowskis. So let's talk about it. While I'm talking, be sure to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know, what do you think about this news that we are getting a fifth Matrix film? Do you want it to be a hard reboot? Do you want it to be a continuation? Should Keanu Reeves return? All of that fun stuff. If you like this type of content beyond just my reviews and my rankings, consider checking out my second channel, Sean Chandler Plus. It's all a little bit more laid back. It's more editorial, talking about movie news, my opinions on things. So giving you more thoughts, more Sean Chandler. So what do we know as of this moment? So there was an official release. This is not rumor mill. This is not speculation. This is not leaks. This is the Warner Brothers Pictures president of production said this. Drew came to Warner Brothers with a new idea that we all believe would be an incredible way to continue the Matrix world by both honoring what Lana and Lily began over 25 years ago and offering a unique perspective based on his own love of the series and characters. The entire team at Warner Brothers Discovery is thrilled for Drew to be making this new Matrix film, adding his vision to the cinematic canon the Wachowskis spent a quarter of a century building here at the studio. Before we dive into what do I think about the idea of them doing a fifth Matrix in general, where do I hope that they go with all of it, we got to talk about Drew Goddard and his filmography. I would say he has a really good track record going back over 20 years. He worked on Buffy, Angel, Alias, and Lost, 4 shows that in their prime were fantastic, and he was involved in a number of some of the best things with those shows. Then he worked on Cloverfield, was the writer of the movie Cloverfield that kicked off the Cloverfield franchise, the movie that Matt Reeves directed. I would say that's one of the better found footage films. That he wrote and directed Cabin in the Woods, a fantastic horror film that's clever, subversive, and had a young Chris Hemsworth in it. He wrote The Martian. Like, he was one of the writers on The Martian, which is he's the writer, the credited screenwriter on The Martian, which is a great movie. So within the last 10 years, he even wrote a great movie that was a big, gigantic hit. Then he launched some little show called Daredevil. My favorite show of the last decade. Now, he ended up leaving to work on other projects that didn't end up happening, and so he didn't continue on with everything, so he doesn't get full credit for Daredevil. But when it comes to launching Daredevil, cracking the code of the tone, the vibe, and what the show would become, that's what he did. And essentially for about 10 years now, they've been trying to get him attached to all these different projects. He's supposed to do Sinister Six, maybe Venom, and there's all this back and forth. Didn't happen. And then about 5 years ago, he did Bad Times at the El Royale, which is like a nice, solid, like kind of weird indie thriller kind of film at a hotel, once again with Hemsworth in it. Solid film if you haven't seen it. And then he's been rumored for a zillion things over the last 5 years, including over the last couple of weeks. He was rumored to be the guy that was going to do Spider-Man 4. Then this broke today, and like I said, this is not rumor mill. This is an official announcement from the head of production at Warner Brothers. They are making this happen. Today's video is brought to you by Raycon. It's that time of the year where I'm trying to work out more. I got to mow my lawn every weekend, and I'm doing a lot of travel. And everything is better with Raycon everyday earbuds. Raycon offers amazing quality audio at half the price of other premium audio brands. Don't just take my word for it. There are tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. Raycon's optimized gel tips are designed to fit comfortably in your ears to actually stay there, whether you're going for a long jog or mowing the lawn. A couple weeks back, I was at South by Southwest, and I'd have to wait in lines hours every single day. I just slipped my Raycons in, listened to music or an audiobook, and I didn't even notice they were there. And with 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life, I don't have to worry about whether they're up for the task. They have 3 customizable sound profiles, so whether I'm listening to music or an audiobook, it sounds perfect. They have a noise isolation mode as well as an awareness mode, depending on if I want to cancel out the world around me or if I need to be able to hear what my kids are up to. Go to buyraycon.com/Sean Chandler today to get 20 20% off your Raycon order plus free shipping. That's right, you'll get 20% off and free shipping at buyraycon.com/Sean Chandler. buyraycon.com/Sean Chandler. So, what do I think of the idea of doing a fifth Matrix film? I don't know. This is a really tough one because the original Matrix is groundbreaking, fantastic movie that built out a great lore where it feels like there's more stories to tell, whether you're talking about prequels, sequels, spin-offs, there's all these things that you could do with it. The direction the Wachowskis went with it was to deconstruct their own lore in their sequel. So you get the second movie and then the architect shows up and they just turn the whole thing on its head and you're like, where do you go from here? Like, I don't know how you pull it back from this. Like, what do you do here? And then by the time you get to the end of the third film, you're like, there's like this, like, they defeated Agent Smith, but we didn't actually resolve the actual conflict of the story. The actual thing that this is about isn't resolved, and it feels like you subverted expectations by ignoring the actual conflict that we want resolved and putting Smith there, which is not nearly as interesting of a thing because we already beat Agent Smith. So they just went off the rails and took what I think could have been a very interesting franchise and made it really tough to go anywhere. So we get our fourth film a few years back, and I was giddy in the theater when I watched it just because we're getting more Matrix. We're finally getting more Matrix. This is one of the movies that made me love movies and get into movie reviewing and all that fun stuff. I'm in the theater watching it at a press screen. This is incredible. The movie itself was not incredible. There's a few interesting ideas where they go meta on top of meta. But overall, by the end of it, you're just like, this is, what did we do? Why did we, this is what we got? Like, I don't know. I'm not seeing it. This was not what I hoped this would be, unfortunately. So, that brings us to now with a couple different thoughts. What do I think of Drew Goddard coming in? What do I think of more Matrix stuff? Should it be a reboot or a sequel? What do you do with that? What do I think of Drew Goddard as our person coming in to adapt it? As I said before, I think that he has a great track record. He's done some very cool stuff that I've loved going back 20 years. He's a talent that everybody knows is a talent, but for whatever reason, hasn't gotten his thing yet. So maybe he's the guy to take over the Matrix. I'm for him having something. Should it be the Matrix? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Some people, their immediate response to this was, no Wachowskis, no Matrix. There's a side to that I appreciate that. When you have a franchise that has been only essentially in the hands of its creators for 25 years, you don't want it to like turn into, what happened to Star Wars, where there's no one steering the ship and there's no creative vision. It's just a product for a big studio. You don't want that. But if you also give it to someone like Drew Goddard, this is a guy 25 years, he's been a fan of the franchise. He's been the same as us. We went in 25 years ago to go see The Matrix and that thing this is incredible. And he's proven his career, his resume for the last 25 years since then. You trust someone new, not the studio, not producer, but like a guy, the writer, director to run with it. I could be game for that. Also, the Wachowskis have given me 3 Matrix sequels that were not even remotely in the ballpark of the original one. Like none of them. You got one that's an A+, and then there's a pretty big dip. And there's things of value in the sequels, or just things here and there, but it's not the same thing. Like, it's just not, they're not the same. They don't capture what the first one was able to do. And their desire to do something different and subversive, I think, undermined what made us love the first one, because the leaning into mythology is what we liked. I don't want you to deconstruct the mythology and undo it. So maybe that's what you need, is someone to come in that just embraces the positives of the franchise without as many, I don't know, wherever the Wachowskis went with all this, I don't think that helped. So, what do I think you should do with a Matrix follow-up? That's a tough one. I don't know if The Matrix works the same way now as it did before. When the original movie came out, it was groundbreaking with its visuals because of the stop motion, or not stop motion, the bullet time and the stuff they did where they'd set up 40 cameras around someone, they'd jump up in the air and they'd cut between and they did stuff you just could never seen anything like that in a movie before. It had been in a few commercials and they put it into a movie and they built it into the mythology. And it was like a combination of lore, choreography, and technology that was awesome and incredible. But now we see that stuff all the time. It was 25 years ago, and CGI has made none of that groundbreaking the same way anymore. And I think you noticed that with the last film, to where it cost $190 million, 3 times as much as the original film, and there's just nothing groundbreaking in the visuals. There just weren't the choreography. None of it was like it was before. Because we did all that 25 years ago. We brought the martial arts of Yuen Wu-Ping, the wire fu, the Jet Li choreography over. We brought the gunplay of John Woo over. And then we brought in the bullet time. And then we brought in Buddhism, Christianity, Hero's Journey, Terminator into the world. Merged it all together. Some Akira, merged it together. We did it. It was done. So what do you do that's groundbreaking that just doesn't feel like a rehash? And I don't think they've ever figured that out, because the first one was so special because it did so many cool things that everything just feels like a rehash by comparison. So I don't know what you do. I think that the current trajectory of convoluted lore with what they did with the last film and how it was received and how, the last 3 films were not well received to the general public. It was just continuing diminishing returns of they keep going in weirder and weirder directions. What are we doing here? So I think for that reason, maybe your best bet is we started over. Along the same lines, like Keanu Reeves would be in his 60s. Keanu Reeves, if he's drinking the blood of virgins, whatever he's doing, that he looks so young, awesome. Pulled it off John Wick 4 last year. But if you're talking about groundbreaking, building a franchise, continuing this world, do you really want to build it on a 60-year-old man? Does that just age your franchise before the movie even comes out? Yes, it does. Like Carrie-Anne Moss, late 50s, they're aging. And that's probably not your best bet. Probably your best bet is to try and do something to start over. Maybe what they're thinking is prequel, pre-Neo rendition. I don't know all of what they're thinking. I don't know that you can build off of where they left off with the last film. I don't think that's the best direction to go. Maybe they'll play around with time travel. Maybe they'll do something wild and wacky to try and really meta I don't know. But I don't think you can build on where they've left things off. I think you have to start some new branch, reboot, whatever it is that just puts that over there, does its own thing, starts fresh and new, and tries to find what can you do visually that is still groundbreaking, that's still interesting. How do you continue to... This is the other thing where it could lean into Star Wars-dom. When George Lucas did Star Wars, he was inspired by Flash Gordon, serials of the 40s, Akira Kurosawa, Westerns, politics, Vietnam, all this stuff. Modern Star Wars is inspired by old Star Wars. The Matrix was inspired by anime, martial arts films, John Woo, Western and Eastern religions and philosophy, sci-fi, Terminator, all this stuff. You don't want a new Matrix film just to be inspired by the old Matrix film. You have to, that's creative inbreeding. That's killing Star Wars. It's just member berries. It's just nostalgia. You have to keep pulling new things in. Hopefully, Drew Goddard, he's got a great track record. He's even done meta things like with The Cabin in the Woods. Hopefully he can pull those outside things in and put them in this movie and do something fresh, new, and different that we have not seen before. That's what I'm hoping for. But you can't just make the new one based on the old one. You can't just try and rehash the, like, what worked about that one and let's do it again. What worked about the original one was the creativity that went into it, the pulling from a lot of places. That's what it needs to be refreshed and revitalized. Be true to the lore that came before, but continuing to be influenced outside of the franchise itself. Don't do creative inbreeding. Keep pulling outside influences in. We'll find out more about the project, I'm sure, in the coming months. I desperately would love to have another Matrix film that I love. I don't know if they can do it, but I guess we'll see what Goddard is able to do. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Hey, thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much.